So today we're going to look at getting this ETS front mount intercooler installed. I've already taken the bumper off, as you can see. A few things to point out for you. What I've done is I've relocated the horn right here. Got all this bracketry out of the way, so should have enough clearance, but I'm going to test fit it first, and then I'll find a more permanent solution for this. I'll probably just bend this and then use the hole and just kind of leave this horn back here. Should be plenty of clearance. And a few other things. So I've already got the crash beam removed here. There were 4 12mm bolts that you need to remove the crash beam. Pretty easy stuff. And since we're here, I've relocated the horn. I might move that again. We'll see how the piping goes with the front mount, and then there are a few things we'll cut back here. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first off, we just gotta look at mounting the front mount here. This is a 4-inch. It's more than I'll ever need, probably too much, but that's what I've got. So we're gonna look at getting it in place. This 12mm bolt here is gonna be where our front mount intercooler mounts to the top bracket. So we'll just remove that. I went ahead and bent this up a little bit. I just bent it back and then straight here, so I retain the OEM setup. Just push back now. ETS did give us a new bolt to do this, but I'm going to retain the OEM bolt. I just think it's a lot better. It's got the washer, so I'll use that. Leave it just a little bit loose so I can get the sides on. The hardware provided from ETS, you've got a spacer, and then you've got a bolt here. We'll go with the spacer first, and just the bolt. Line it up, thread it in, easy peasy. Same for the other side. I'll get that torqued down and then I'll tighten these up. So I noticed on this side I'm having to hold down the inlet here a little bit, get the bolt to tighten in straight. New bolts with the ETS kit are 13mm instead of the normal 12. Snug these down. Went ahead and started mocking up the charge pipe going into the throttle body. So you've got the coupler here that reduces down to probably a 2.5 to 3 inch, I'm guessing. Anyway, it's pretty easy to tell which part that is. It just reduces it. Bolts right here where your alternator bracket would be. I just reused the regular bolt because it's got a washer on it. They didn't have one with the ETS kit. Anyway, I got that in place, ready to go, and then I'm going to start getting the driver's side ready. So I'm going to be putting all my logos facing front. I'll do that on the other side as well, but anyway, it's just not that you have to, it's just something cool, something, you know, or you can turn them around if you don't like logos, but you'll hardly ever see that unless you take the bumper off. So what you have to do is you have to run the piece of pipe here. It's the weird shaping one. So that's what it looks like. And it'll just go into the driver's side, and then we'll have to route it up behind the light. We're going to work on removing this bracket right here. It blocks the intercooler piping that will route behind the headlight. So there are 4 14mm bolts. I've already got them removed except for this one. And then there's a clip right here we'll need to remove. The other 2 are behind the windshield fluid washer. So that's where those connect. You might be able to get to them from the battery if you were to remove the battery. However, I just got a really long extension And yeah, I dropped the water fluid. So I ended up dropping the washer fluid reservoir, and then getting to these 14mm bolts in the back. Not too bad. They're on kind of tight, so expect that. Before removing the washer fluid reservoir, you will need to disconnect the fill, and it's originally connected here. So you just need to remove this pop clip out and pull it out of your way and drop it down. So this actually spins, and I'm gonna get it out of the way from our intercooler piping. To remove the windshield washer reservoir, there are 3 10mm bolts holding it onto the car. There's one right here in the front. There's one back there. This is a little harder to get to, but you can kind of wedge a driver extension back here and get to that bolt. The last of the 3 is connected right here. That's another 10mm bolt. You just remove that, and then you're able to drop the washer fluid reservoir, which you want to leave it dropped, and remove this. So to put it back on the washer fluid reservoir, you've got this long nut provided with the ETS kit, and you just put it on that threaded bolt, and then there's another bolt that comes with the kit to mock this up and then put it on. Same goes down here. You're going to use the spacer, and then you put your bolt and washer on the other side of the washer fluid reservoir. It's not too terrible, just takes a little bit of time. Okay, make sure everything goes together. Yeah, looks good. Alright, there we go. So I know that fits. So fits in there really well through the top, and that's what you're left with. And we've got a not quite a 90, maybe a 45-degree elbow, and we'll connect these 2 pipes together. Yeah, I haven't put the clamps on yet. I'm just getting a test fit of everything before I put the clamps on. While trying to mount this charge pipe to the throttle body, there are a few things to take note of. You want to get your breeze clamps on the pipe first. This one is the 263. This one is the 288. I think this is the biggest one, and that goes to the throttle body. So get those on, get your coupler on here, and then you can put your bolt right here, the 10mm bolt for the charge pipe, and then you can start to put this together. Otherwise, if you put the coupler on first and everything else, it's hard to match up because the charge pipe goes a little too far over this way. So it's not perfect, but if you assemble it the right way, it's not terrible. We're looking at the passenger side of the front mount intercooler and the piping for that. So this is where things are going to be a little different for people. I have a Tial QRJ blow-off valve here that I'm using, so I've had to route some of my stuff for that. So depending on what you have, yours might be a little different. I'm not sure. I know they have a lot of different options for bypass valves, blow-off valves, and all that stuff. So anyway, what I did is there's a 10mm screw right here holding up the wheel well protector, if you will. So I've removed that, and I've gotten some more space to fit my piping in here. So I've got a pretty good gap in here. I also had to cut out the bash guard liner. This plastic part right here sticks up, so I cut that already. And then I've had to find a longer hose for the bypass valve. So luckily I had this laying around. If I didn't, I would have had to go to the auto parts store and find the right hose. So if you're in that situation, and the best thing to do is to get your bypass valve. This is the stock one. Obviously I'm changing to the tile down there, so you'd have to take this to the store and get them to find some hose for that fitting. What was provided with the kit is this. I don't know who's going to be using that, because if you like, the size of the hose is almost the size of the fitting for the bypass valve, so that's completely useless. I don't get that ETS, but whatever. And they also provide this pipe right here, this hose, ETS hose. So this will come over from your intake pipe right there. Let's see, I gotta find it in the camera. Yeah, right here. So this is not the stock inlet hose. This is the FP, or Force Performance. Like I said, your setup's going to be a little different down here. Anyway, this is the original hole where the bypass valve was in. Okay, so that's what this hose from ETS will be replacing. And since I'm not using the stock inlet, I had to go to the hardware store and buy this 1 inch to 1 inch barb fitting. It doesn't really fit on here the best, but it's the best they have. So I've used the breeze clamp here to tighten that down as much as I can, and then this end actually fits into my FP blue inlet very well. It's very snug, so I don't have any concern there. And so we just need to get that connected. And then this is our charge pipe outlet from the turbo right here. So we've got our gasket for it. That'll get sandwiched between the pipe and the turbo. Pretty self-explanatory how that goes in. I'll be using the OEM bolts for the turbo to mount this. And what I've done is I've kind of removed some hoses so I have more room in here. Here we go. So I have more room in here to do that, to mount that charge pipe onto the turbo. Also, if you haven't noticed, I've removed the fan here. I've got a lot more clearance. So here's the plug for it down there. It's just on the side. I have to unplug that and remove two 10 millimeter bolts right here that are holding on, just like this side, and then it'll pull right out. So if you could do that, you'll get a lot more room in here. And I haven't had to go under the car yet, which I was trying to avoid just because it won't start. And yeah, it's been nice. So hopefully I can get this all together. I think I can do it. Anyway, here's the smaller hose for the bypass valve, and that's going up into one of these, the closest to the engine, that piping right there. So that's nice and long. And then once I get my Tial QRJ in place, I'll snap it. I'll cut it to the right length. But anyway, I'm going to work on getting this ETS hose installed to the inlet, the turbo inlet, and then I will clamp it into place down there. And then I will put the hose on for this one. This is going to my AOS right here. I also went out and got a 5/8 fitting for that, so that's brass, upgraded from the plastic, gonna be much better. Anyway, that's just going to the IAG AOS. So depending on what you got going on, it's gonna be a little different. Unfortunately, I can't guide you through all of it, but if you have this setup, you should be in good shape. So I've got my log extension here, and then a 10mm down there, and I've got the bolt here tightened, hand tightened, and then now I'm doing the other side. So I just wanted to let you guys know it can be done without lifting the car. However, be very careful. Make sure you get these bolts in there, hand tighten. Don't go to town cranking them down.